Everyone's heard of Atlantis. But what if I told you Atlantis wasn't the only one? Beneath miles of salt water, far below where sunlight dies, lie the ruins of cities the world forgot. Real streets, real temples, real people, swallowed whole by the ocean, as if history itself tried to erase them. They weren't myths. They existed. And they all vanished, in the same mysterious way. Tonight we dive into the depths to uncover what connects them, and what the ocean never meant for us to find. For centuries, Heracleion was just a whisper, a name caught between myth and memory, a city said to be blessed by the gods and cursed by the sea. The Greeks called it Thonis Heracleion, the gateway to Egypt, where heroes once walked, and where Heracles himself was said to step ashore. A city of marble and gold, a city where Cleopatra's ancestors prayed to the gods, and yet no one had ever seen it. No ruins, no proof, only the sound of the ocean, hiding something it didn't want found. Then, in the year 2000, everything changed. Off the coast of Alexandria, a team of French divers led by Frank Gaudio lowered sonar scanners into the Mediterranean, searching for shipwrecks. But what they saw on their screens wasn't a ship. The sonar showed massive stone shapes, perfect rectangles, columns, courtyards, scattered across the ocean floor in a way only cities are built. At first they thought the readings were wrong. Maybe it was a geological formation, maybe a mirage of the sea. But when divers finally descended, their lights revealed something that hadn't been seen by human eyes in 2,000 years. Stone walls rising from the sand, columns leaning like fallen giants, and then faces. Huge, silent faces carved from granite, their eyes wide open, staring into the dark water. Frozen mid-prayer, still guarding a city no one remembered, Heracleion was real. Before it sank, Heracleion was Egypt's greatest port, a thriving city where the Nile met the Mediterranean. Every empire knew its name: Greek, Phoenician, Persian. Merchants from across the ancient world brought their treasures here: gold, linen, papyrus, incense, silk, spices, and sacred statues of the gods. The docks were alive, the sound of foreign tongues, the smell of burning oil, the glint of sunlight on bronze. At its heart stood the temple of Amun-Gareb, a colossal structure where pharaohs and priests performed rituals for safe passage and divine favor. It was said the temple's doors only opened for kings, but even the greatest cities can't defy the sea forever. Around 1200 BCE, the world shifted. The earth began to tremble. The sea started to rise. And then, without warning, the ground beneath Heracleion began to melt. Temples split apart like clay. Streets buckled and disappeared under waves of sand and water. Ships that once floated were suddenly lifted and thrown inland, as if an invisible hand was wiping the city clean from existence. The people never stood a chance. Some tried to flee inland. Others clung to the statues of gods they thought would save them. But by dawn, Heracleion was gone. The city that had ruled the Nile Delta was erased, swallowed whole by the ocean. No survivors, no record. Just silence. For centuries, Egypt forgot it existed. When Gaudio's team uncovered Heracleion, they realized something extraordinary. The city hadn't been destroyed. It had been preserved. Sonar revealed an entire network of streets, canals, and temples, still perfectly arranged beneath the silt. Divers found giant statues of pharaohs and queens still standing upright, guarding temple gates just as they had thousands of years ago. Ships still rested beside the docks, their anchors in place. Coins and jewelry lay scattered exactly where they'd fallen from the hands that once held them. It wasn't ruins. It was a snapshot of a single night in history, a city frozen in time. But as the excavations went deeper, questions began to rise. Scientists claimed the disaster was caused by liquefaction, a process where the ground turns into quicksand during an earthquake. And yet, the evidence didn't fit. The structures hadn't shattered. They'd sunk intact. Columns leaned gently. Statues were upright. No fire damage. No collapse. No signs of panic. It was as though the city had simply drifted downward. Even stranger, among the treasures and artifacts were objects that didn't belong. Fragments of metal that didn't match any known Egyptian alloy. Tools that looked far too advanced, almost mechanical. and inscriptions carved in symbols no scholar could translate. Not Greek, not Egyptian, not any known language of the ancient world. One fragment even contained a compound only seen in metallurgy 1,000 years later. How could that exist? Unless someone else had been here first. Some archaeologists began whispering the unthinkable. What if Heracleion didn't collapse? What if it was buried on purpose? Ancient Egyptian myth spoke of cities hidden from mortal eyes to protect sacred knowledge. Was Heracleion one of them? Others point to the strange magnetic interference in the area. Compasses spinning wildly. Instruments failing near certain statues. Divers have reported hearing faint sounds below the water. Chanting. Drums. Echoes of movement where there should be none. Of course, science dismisses these as tricks of acoustics. But when you're down there, surrounded by silent faces and half-buried gods, you start to wonder. Was this truly a city that drowned? Or a city that was sealed, kept beneath the waves for a reason? Today, Heracleion lies 30 feet beneath the Mediterranean. Its temples quiet, its streets shadowed by fish and drifting light. But divers say something strange about it. That when you swim through its gates, the water feels warmer. That the sand moves even when the current doesn't. Some say the city still breathes, that it waits for the surface world to make the same mistakes again. So history can repeat itself. Because legends have a habit of coming true. And maybe Heracleion wasn't just another lost city. Maybe it was a warning. A message from an age when gods still walked among men, and when the sea decided which civilizations deserved to rise, and which ones deserved to drown Heracleion, the city that never truly died. Only forgot to breathe, but Heracleion wasn't the only one. Across the sea, another city sleeps, older, quieter, and perhaps even stranger. A place so ancient that history itself refuses to acknowledge it. Its name is Pavlopetri, and unlike Heracleion, this city lies just a few feet below the surface. Close enough to touch, but impossible to truly explain. In 1967, a marine archaeologist named Nicholas Fleming was mapping the coast of southern Greece when he noticed something strange. The seafloor wasn't natural. It had straight lines, right angles, grids, patterns nature doesn't make. When divers went down to check, they found walls, rooms, doorways, and streets. An entire city resting silently beneath the crystal blue water. At first, scientists thought it was a few thousand years old. But when dating began, the truth stunned them all. Pavlopetri was nearly 5,000 years old. That means this underwater city existed before the pyramids of Egypt, before Stonehenge, before the very idea of history as we know it. As divers mapped more of the ruins, they discovered organized streets, two-story homes, and drainage systems that matched cities from the Bronze Age. And yet Pavlopetri was older. Its layout was shockingly modern. Houses aligned in neat grids, with separate living areas, courtyards, and pathways. They even found evidence of urban planning, a concept that, according to mainstream history, shouldn't have existed for another 1,000 years. Whoever built Pavlopetri wasn't primitive. They were engineers, sailors, and architects, people who understood structure, trade, and geometry. But here's the mystery. We don't know who they were. No known civilization at the time matches Pavlopetri's design or sophistication. It's like a ghost city from a forgotten chapter of humanity. So what happened to them? Why did they vanish? The region around the Aegean Sea has always been restless. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, nature constantly rewriting the map. Scientists say that rising sea levels after 1000 BCE slowly drowned Pavlopetri. But slowly doesn't explain what they found. The ruins show no signs of erosion, no burn marks, no collapse from time or decay. It was as if one moment, people were living there. And the next, the sea simply took it. Chairs still upright. Walls still standing. Footprints still pressed into the seabed. No signs of chaos. Just silence. Perfect frozen silence. As research continued, something even more unsettling emerged. When teams used advanced sonar and submersible drones, they detected geometric shapes extending beyond the known ruins, rectangles, circles, and corridors stretching deeper into the sea. At first, the teams were ecstatic. They might have found an even older section of Pavlopetri, Proof that it wasn't just a village, but an entire civilization. But when they sent drones deeper, everything went wrong. Cameras shut off without warning. Compass readings spun uncontrollably. Batteries drained as if something was interfering. At first, scientists blamed magnetic anomalies, but the data didn't match. The interference came in pulses, rhythmic and deliberate. Old Greek fishermen in nearby towns say it's always been that way. They tell stories of strange lights in the water and whispers that rise from the sea at night, as if something ancient still stirs beneath those ruins. They call it the moving shadow. And they say, it doesn't like being disturbed. Every clue about Pavlopetri leads to more questions. Who built it? Why was it abandoned? And how did they achieve such architectural precision thousands of years before history recorded anything? Similar? Some researchers believe it was connected to the Minoans, the mysterious civilization that flourished on the nearby island of Crete. The Minoans were sailors, artists, and mathematicians. Their technology was far ahead of its time. But then one day, they vanished too. Destroyed, historians say, by the eruption of Thera, one of the largest volcanic events in human history. Could Pavlopetri have been part of that same network? A sister city, wiped out in the same cataclysm? Or is it even older, a remnant of something before the Minoans, something that shouldn't exist at all? The deeper we look, the more familiar it sounds. A thriving coastal city, advanced technology, a sudden disappearance beneath the sea, Heracleion, Pavlopetri, and of course, Atlantis. What if Atlantis was never just one city, but a memory? A story passed down from civilization to civilization, each remembering a time when the oceans rose and took everything back. Maybe Atlantis wasn't fiction at all. Maybe it was the world's way of remembering the ones that came before. Today, Pavlopetri lies under just 3 meters of water, so close you could swim over its rooftops. And yet, no one has fully explored it. It's protected now, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But locals say the water still hides more than ruins. Divers speak of strange sensations, a feeling of being watched, as if the city itself is aware of who visits. One researcher described it best. When you swim through those streets, you can almost feel the pulse of the city. It's not dead, it's waiting. Perhaps the ocean didn't destroy these cities. Perhaps it preserved them, like seeds buried in the dark, waiting for their story to surface again. From Egypt to Greece, from Heracleion to Pavlopetri, 2 cities, worlds apart, share the same fate. Both were advanced. Both were connected to the sea. Both vanished almost overnight. Coincidence? Or evidence of something bigger? A pattern repeating through history? Every time humanity reaches too far, the ocean reminds us who truly rules this planet. It takes what it wants and buries the rest in silence. Maybe that's why so many myths speak of gods beneath the waves. Because deep down, we know the truth. The past isn't gone. It's just underwater. Beneath the calm blue of our oceans lie the echoes of entire worlds, places that lived, dreamed, and vanished long before we ever walked the earth. Heracleion, Pavlopetri, Atlantis. Different names, one mystery. Maybe the sea didn't erase our history. Maybe it's just waiting for us to remember.